I want us to travel a bit. You mentioned earlier San Francisco and Silicon Valley, and I'm thinking that you did have a great exposure to all of these ecosystems, if I'm not mistaken, also through the JEDI Fund. And I am curious to know more. And for everybody who is watching us to understand a bit better, I would like us to start with a brief description of the JEDI Fund, what it is, and what does it actually do?
So now I'm putting my venture capitalist hat on. Okay,
yes, please.
And so yeah, I've joined Camco, which is one of the largest asset managers in the region.
Yes,
and it wins awards from Forbes, etc., and Lipper Awards, etc., for being distinguished and being one of the larger and better managed asset managers. And I think it's 27 years old now. It's publicly traded and has large institutional investments, large institutional investors. And so that made it very, very attractive for me as a partner that wants to do something in the alternatives. And so basic investments. So if you invest your money in the stock market in what's called public equities,
yes.
If you put your money in fixed income,
Okay.
which is bonds, and if you just hold your money in cash or money market, that's all called investments.
Yes.
And then if anything else, it's called alternative. And so if you put your money in private placement, in private equity, in venture capital, in hedge funds, and also real estate, it's not, real estate its own, real estate is real estate. And then there's alternatives.
Yes.
Alternatives, it's called alternative because it's not as simple and basic. Because in the public market, you can go sell your stock and get liquidity the next day.
Yes.
Real estate, usually you invest in a building that gives you monthly income. So it's called revenue generating investments.
Okay.
With private equity, which is what venture capital is, because private equities, you're investing in something in a private company that doesn't have financials every quarter and whatever, and you're buying equity in that company. You're buying shares. So it's called private equity. And if it's in a late stage, the company is mature, like OpenAI and Anthropic, $1 trillion company, or even SpaceX.
Exactly.
Those are, private equity deals. If it's in a growing, starting in a small, and you don't know anything about the company, it's called growth private equity. That's called venture capital because you're taking an adventure and it's risky.
Yes.
But high risk, high reward.
I was going to say probably the rewards are
right, because if you invest in a company early and it goes 1,000 times, then you make 1,000 times your money. You will never make 1,000 times your money on fixed income, ever. You'll make 4 or 5% a year, but it's fixed and you're guaranteed. So it's all about your risk appetite, okay? So that's a kind of introduction to venture capital. I enjoy that very much because if we go back to our earlier discussion, when I was in college, I would see, the opportunities. What if we invested in Dell early? When Dell first came and met my father, I was like, please, take my computers to Aramco instead of IBM or something.
Yes.
So we're very important in securing that big contract for them. And then the stock shot. And so that's when I realized, we should be in this business. And that's why when I was finally in charge, I took Al Alamiya public in Kuwait 2006. I sold some of Sakhar's, let's say, legacy technologies and kept some of our more natural language processing and more, the ones that have patents
Core
are close to our heart and have a patent, which is, that's innovation. We kept those. But I focused.
Make a bracket, sorry. I'll let you finish. You mentioned innovation, and I want us to say this because maybe people don't know this. Your father's company did create innovation. Tell us what it was.
Well, we have several U.S. patents, and the United States Patent Trademark Office, USPTO, it's a government federal entity in Washington, D.C. that gives you a patent. And a patent basically means you have discovered, developed, invented something that has never been done before.
Yes.
And you've challenged a team of academic and legal experts by the federal government, and then they give you a U.S. patent. And therefore, no one can replicate that for 20 years. we don't care about the replication part. We just cared about getting it done. So I think we have 4 US patents in optical character recognition, in Arabic speech recognition. And this is a bit complicated. It's called Arabic disambiguation system, which means thematic prediction, which means that you can write a sentence and then it will understand what's going to come next. So, you know, when you write something and it says, is this what you wanted to say?
Exactly.
Right. Well, we've done all that 25 years ago.
Amazing.
Right. And so all the patents were granted in 2003 and they take about 2 or 3 years. So all that is from our 90s R&D work. That's my father's work.
Yes.
And so my father was a serious innovator, was ahead of the game. He saw all this coming like decades ago.
Yes.
And that's why he's one of one. And we are just business people. And we're like, okay, how to now, the fun part is how to monetize that, how to productize that, how to make money, and how to use everything we know to invest in other innovations early.
Yes.
And so between watching what happened in Sakhar's R&D and the fact there's no economies of scale here for those technologies to matter. So it's great you have sales in the tens of millions.
Yes.
But if you were in Silicon Valley, you'd be in the tens of billions and your company worth $1 trillion.
Yes.
And companies that were started at the same time we got started, now we're worth $1 trillion. And we're not. And so it's not anyone's fault except we're in the wrong part of the world because it's small. And so
we'll go back to the JEDI Fund.
And so I figured the best thing to do is to go to the Bay Area. Remember I said it was the highest production of technology, the highest number of AI companies, the highest number of computer science graduates, the highest number of tech companies, startups, and technical schools and venture capital firms. And that is, people are like, well, that's a big ocean and you're going to be a small fish. You'd rather stay here and be the big shark in a small pond. But the small pond is too small and you can't grow.
Yes.
But over there, you have to fight to be relevant and to understand. And that's when you understand it's an information game. Do you have the information? And number 2, yes, you do have the information. Now, do you have access to people that can get you in? And yes, you do have access. Do you have the right judgment to know which one to get into? So it's information, access, and judgment. And it's not easy because it takes 10 years to figure out whether you did it right or wrong. And the number one indicator of how well you've done is a metric called DPI, which is distribution per investment. How much money have you invested and how much have you distributed back? The net asset value and the multiple of invested capital, that's great, but that's just saying, you're halfway through graduation in high school and you're in midterms and you say, I got A's, but you still didn't graduate. And so I don't care what's your scorecard. Did you graduate with the highest GPA possible and got a good job? That's how I look at investments. Did the investments do well? Did they go public? And did you distribute your money back? And so DPI is what matters. And so to link it all together, I always liked the alternative space because I think that the high risk, high reward, I felt comfortable understanding the risks involved because I understood the information, because we naturally read a lot about tech because it's in our business. We automatically, go to all these events anyway because of our business. And so having that early exposure to R&D engineers and understanding how they think. And then being a distributor of Dell, Microsoft, and Intel, and seeing how those companies became $1 trillion companies, and we should have invested in them early. And so all that, and then of course having so in Kuwait, you can't just go set up a fund. The Capital Markets Authority and the regulators here require you to have certain criteria. And not just in Kuwait, in DIFC, in Abu Dhabi, in Saudi, the Central Market Authority or the DFSA in Dubai.
This is the market mechanism.
Yeah, the regulator. Everyone has it. Even the US has a SEC. They have rules. And I thought it would be best to align with an established powerhouse. And if they shared the same enthusiasm, and as I said, I was very lucky that they were just as excited. And, using their platform, which means they can set up funds, they can distribute, meaning they have wealth managers that can distribute the fund and raise money for the fund.
Yes.
They can do it in multiple locations because they're in Kuwait, they're in Saudi, they're in UAE, Dubai, and ADGM Abu Dhabi, DFC in Dubai, and also in Bahrain. And we have small offices in London and Egypt. And so that's, that becomes a no-brainer. Like, who else are you going to work with? KFH, MBK, Camco. That's it. And the other two are not interested. And that's why they don't have a VC product.
Okay.
And they don't have an alternatives platform. But Camco does. And we successfully raised Fund 1, which was the JEDI. And it's a $45 million early stage VC fund focused on the geography of the Bay Area. We've done maybe 5% outside of the Bay Area, just, for FOMO's sake, in case, there's a great manager that just went and did a fund in Southeast Asia. We gave him like a little bit of money just to see the flow and build a discovery model. One in India, one in Southeast Asia. But pretty much everything else is in the Bay Area. And we deployed that 45 million via a network of emerging managers. And that's what the JEDI actually means. It means the Joint Emerging Manager Direct Investment Program. So first you invest in emerging managers, and then you see which company has breakout, which fund has breakout companies in the portfolio, and you double down on them. And therefore you have guaranteed knowledge of which company is growing. And that takes the judgment part out of, like, how do you know, which is great. Well, you see the data. Why? Because you're in the fund early and you mine the data and you track it and you build a tracker discovery program and you see. And that's how you sort of lower and mitigate the risk of making a mistake, and you sort of concentrate more on winners. And so far the numbers are great. And some of our emerging managers have distributed over 30% DPI. And for something that's less than 5 years old, I think that's very, very good indication. And, it's not really an opinion anymore. It's not really a point of view of what does this person think or that person think. It's numbers. And the numbers don't lie. And at the end of the day, there's a benchmark. This is the year you started. This is how many investments you've done. This is your IRR. This is your DPI. And whoever has the highest DPI and highest IRR is the best.
Exactly.
And whoever doesn't have DPI, I don't care what they have, is not so good. So that encourages us because we've established that, and we look forward now to doing our second fund.
Well, you mentioned earlier exposure. And I wanted to ask you, in relation also to the JEDI Fund, are you seeing any shifts globally now that we might be underestimating here in the region at the moment?
Look, I think, honestly, and I gave a whole keynote about the AI boom in the world. The number one country that is investing in AI is the US, and 80% or 90% of it is in Silicon Valley or San Francisco. Right after the US, it's China. And then everyone else is really lagging behind. The only region that has its own formula of what to do with AI is the GCC. Besides what the UAE and Saudi are doing in terms of attracting major AI labs to build, or AI scalers as they call them, to build their centers there, which is so important. They're also big investors. So the Kuwait Investment Authority is a large investor in OpenAI. The Qatari Investment Authority is a large investor in Perplexity, Anthropic. Saudi PIF is a large investor in Databricks, and so on. So the point I'm making here is, like, through investments, this is the best thing you can guarantee. At least you own it. And when you own something, you can use it quicker than someone that's completely oblivious.
Yes.
So I'm not worried about the GCC. I'm worried about, like, Europe. Where are they in the game? Where is their AI model? Where's the European Anthropic?
Okay.
Where's the European data center? Where is it? Where is the European comp to what UAE is building?
Don't think they've been much innovators anyways.
I mean, I think, again, that's a regulation thing.
Yes.
I think Europe is stuck in legacy regulation and is a victim of socialism still. And I think socialism destroyed Europe. And I think this sense of entitlement by the socialist workers to do nothing and have 3-day weekends and have like siesta breaks, and that's the opposite of the energy in Silicon Valley. And you don't need to be in Silicon Valley. You know, you can play golf all day. No one forces you. But if you really want to innovate and be ahead of the game, you need to put the work, and you need to have the academic ecosystem and the whole ecosystem like in Silicon Valley. And that's why in Europe, besides being fragmented and being, they're just not on the same page. You can see from the Ukraine war and this whole nonsense now with Iran and NATO and this, different people say different things.
Yes.
It's a problem. I mean, it's a problem. I mean, Germany thinks it's a great country, right? Yeah, you built Mercedes-Benz and BMW and you have a lot of great companies like Siemens, whatever. Yeah, that was because of the 18th century and 19th century. But going forward, I don't see that happening where I see like small countries like UAE, like Singapore. Singapore provided a lot for chip manufacturing, what's called fabs, fabrication centers. And they laid the best laws and regulation to make that happen. So everyone's in Singapore building.
Yes.
And you have little places like Taiwan, completely controlled the chip manufacturing business, right?
Yes.
And so where's Europe? And where's Canada?
It's an end user.
Right. Yes, it's going to be an end user. And they have issues now, immigration, lawlessness. Like if you're in London or Paris walking in the street, right? And you can't think about innovation. You're thinking about, I don't want to be mugged. I don't want someone to steal my phone. I don't want someone to steal my backpack. I don't want someone to steal my laptop. Where can I sit where I'm not bothered? Where am I going to sit where there's no like riots or there's, rats? And, have you walked in London recently? And so it's so unwelcoming. And then you walk in Doha or Dubai or Kuwait or Singapore or Hong Kong, and there's absolutely no chaos. There's order. And that is your human rights are respected.
Yes.
No one's going to mug you. No one's going to rape you. No one's going to attack you. No one's going to steal from you. No one's going to, and that sense of security gives you enough space in your mind to relax so you can be innovative. And that's why I think this part of the world is a blessing compared to other parts. And as we build more, as we invest more, it's going to be more and more attractive.
I'm happy that you came back to the region. I also wanted to come back to the region, but I love how your mind goes so far. You mentioned AI, and it's an important topic nowadays. And I want to know, how much of it do you think it's actually driving transformation, and in which sectors? And how much do you think is just hype that's, exceeding reality, let's say?
Well, I mean, with every technology, with everything that comes out new, there's a lot of noise. And you have to be able to determine what's actual signal and what's just noise. I think what's clear today is that large language models are definitely game changers in terms of knowledge management. Like what I can produce today used to take me weeks and research with Google, with Word, and with Excel, these tools. And if I look back to pre-Excel and pre-spreadsheet, I don't know how people did work. And if you look even earlier, before the calculator, the big general ledger and stuff, how did people create anything? And so no, advancements in technology do change lives and make you quicker and better and more efficient. As I said, more efficiency means you get things done at a lower cost, quicker. So it's not a trend or a fad, it's a reality. Just look at how much your life personally has changed with GPT.
Everything is much easier now, right?
Okay, now think of GPT on that scale. Think of yourself as a health ministry. Think about all the data we can get in Kuwait and all diabetes and all the obesity that's Kuwait related, not some research done by Eli Lilly in Europe and fat Europeans. No, that eat pork and eat milk and drink wine and things that we don't have here. And so the results don't apply to us. So we're taking medicine that's done on focus groups that are not us. So think about all the stuff that AI will now help you realize with just generate all the data we have. Like imagine the 2 million, 3 million people registered in the Ministry of Health on Sahel, taking all their data and having AI sift through it and come up with patterns that we haven't seen before. And from the analysis, come up with predictive analysis that help us come up with medicine that fixes us specifically and bespoke medication versus this generalized stuff. This is just on the health level. And I think that's just one analogy or one example of where it's going to change our lives dramatically in the next 3 years.
I think it's amazing because you mentioned the UAE, and I know that there, if I'm saying it correctly, the government has paid for everybody to have access to ChatGPT Pro so that everybody becomes more efficient. This is what I heard, that at least at a government level, everybody has access. It was funded by their government, is to streamline and start, early adoption. But as you know, I write down things because I want the conversation to be more meaningful. And I think what's interesting is to hear there's a much bigger picture, and I want your expertise on it. So according to recent reports, Gulf sovereign wealth funds accounted for roughly 63% of global sovereign-backed AI investments between 2020 and 2025, with more than $20 billion allocated toward AI-related sectors. And it was this year at LEAP where Saudi Arabia announced nearly $15 billion in AI and digital infrastructure commitments in a single event, in partnerships with companies such as NVIDIA and AMD. And I want to ask you if such moves are helping the competitiveness of the region. What do you feel that it's going to be the major consequence of this?
Yeah, that's exactly what we were talking about earlier. This is exactly what happens. I mean, if you go back to the 5G adoption, they were the first to realize, let's build the most sophisticated communication superstructure. And then, now they're doing it with AI. Let's do that. The first to come up with the best infrastructure and superstructure wins. And again, they come up with regulations that help and fix, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE all have their vision and they're moving very quickly with that. And, things, for example, let's take NEOM in Saudi. Some of the ideas now that they did a revisit, they're like, we want to do capital efficiency. And so some of those projects might not be efficient in the previous 5-year plan, but now we're going to transform them into AI data centers because we built it. And, fortune favors the prepared. And if you're prepared, you can always move. And so they are prepared because they dug the thing, they built the base. Now they have the power plant to operate it. But instead of it being some leisure lifestyle, now they're like, let's make it into an AI center. And so things like that definitely make this part of the world the most competitive. And it's the investments that brought people here. That's to my point earlier. Like instead of replicating it, invest, come back, build for the region and build added value services that make them come in. It's like Switzerland and the banking in the World War I and II. Because they had the most sophisticated banking system for then and the most regulated system for back then. It made everyone feel comfortable putting their cash there. They were protected. Same thing is happening now. It's called data banks. When you build these data centers and you have all these countries that cannot build data centers in their countries for many reasons, they store their data with you. And so you become their lifeline.
Yes.
And yes, for example, some country X in Europe or X in Africa, they can't build for many reasons. Regulation, lack of funding, political chaos. But they need their health data on the cloud, but it's sitting on a server somewhere. So it sits here, and it's called data embassies. Okay, and that's happening in the region. And then when all those billions of people have all their data linked to you, that's a very strong security move. When people can't afford to let bullies throw their garbage fireworks on you. And they will stop it. And globally, there will be forbidden from attacking you because it will affect everyone's health. And I think it's very smart for security reasons to do that as well. And the Gulf is way ahead of everyone.